Sajou was a boy who kept getting rejected by the girl he liked, Aika Natsukawa. One day at school, he was following her like always and kept asking her to come with him, but she ignored him and called him an annoying boy, so she brushed him off. Suddenly, a ball hit his head, and it felt like something in his mind changed. Aika became worried and asked if he was okay. Sajou said yes, so she told him that if he did not act so strange, these things might not happen to him. After Aika walked away, Sajou decided he would not follow her anymore and would try to live a normal life. The next day, when Sajou entered the class, everyone saw a clear change in his behavior. Aika's friend Kei Ashida joked that maybe Sajou got some kind of punishment because of his old crush. Aika stopped her from saying more, but Sajou stayed calm and sat quietly. A little later, the teacher entered and also looked surprised because the boy who always ran after Aika was now just sitting quietly in his chair. Aika slowly started to notice that Sajou was not giving her the same attention as before. During the break, Sajou walked calmly in the hallway and fully ignored his old crush. Then his friends pulled him aside and asked what happened between him and Aika. Sajou answered directly that he did not want to chase Aika anymore. His friends did not believe it and thought the two had a big fight. Sajou explained he still liked Aika, but now he would just like her from a distance and would not bother her. When he returned to class and was getting ready for lunch, Aika asked where he was going. He answered calmly that he was going to the cafeteria alone. His friends found all this very strange because the Sajou they knew always followed Aika. Seeing this change, they thought maybe he was tired after being rejected so many times. At lunch, Sajou was eating alone when a girl from the next class, Reena Aizawa, came and sat with him. She tried to start a conversation, but Sajou was not in the mood to talk. Still, Reena did not get upset and quietly left him alone. The next day, one of his friends came and told him that someone had come to see him, and then it was Reena again, who appeared in front of him just as cheerful as before. Sajou found her behavior a bit unusual, while his friend thought Reena could be a good choice for him and advised him to think about it seriously. At the same time, Aika entered the class with her friend Ashida. Sajou tried to talk to her, but she gave them a hard look, put her things on the desk, and then quickly left the class. During physical education, Sajou kept looking at Aika while playing and lost focus on the game, so his whole team got in trouble, and in the end, he had to apologize to everyone. Later, Ashida spoke to him about Reena Aizawa and told him that just a few days ago, Reena was very attached to her ex-boyfriend, Arimura. It turned out Reena and Arimura had been together since the first year of high school. Sajou, who always liked to know about other people's matters, went to see Arimura himself and heard him telling his friends that now he wanted to be with Aika Natsukawa. Back in class, Ashida jokingly asked Sajou if he was thinking about Reena. Sajou said he wanted to ask Reena something important, and right then, Reena herself entered their class. Because Reena was a social girl, she joined the three of them easily. Ashida immediately asked her why she broke up with her boyfriend, so the mood became serious and strange. Reena was surprised that someone knew about her breakup, but she still answered that she did not feel satisfied or calm in that relationship, so she decided to end it. Ashida lightly said that maybe Arimura was not a good partner himself, and now things would be better with Sajou. Right then, Aika interrupted and said Ashida was going too far and should not get into such personal matters. Reena did not like these comments, so she shouted at Ashida in anger and left the class. Sajou quickly went after her to apologize, while the other two girls stayed silent in their places. Sajou called Reena in the park and tried to calm her down. While talking, Reena noticed that Sajou did not mention Aika much in front of her. Sajou explained that he did not feel right talking about another girl in front of her, but Reena brought up the topic herself and directly asked if he liked Aika. Sajou said yes clearly, but it felt strange to him because Aika had never accepted him from the start. The talk became a bit heavy, so he changed the topic and asked Reena about her breakup in detail. Reena said their moods and likes were very different, and she wanted freedom and equality in a relationship, while Arimura kept things limited and one-sided, so they broke up. Then she added that she tried to move on too quickly to show herself as strong, but it only created new misunderstandings. To make Reena feel better, Sajou shared his own experience of being rejected many times. He started telling a story in a dramatic way, saying he was chasing a girl, then she slapped him in front of everyone, and after that, Aika came and saved him, which made him attracted to her. Reena was shocked to hear this, so Sajou laughed and admitted he was only joking. The real story was that he fell in the cafeteria and Aika helped him get up, so from that small kindness, he got attached to her and then became obsessed. The next morning, news spread at school that Reena Aizawa was seen again with her ex-boyfriend Arimura. Ashida felt bad for Sajou and said he got disappointment from both Aika and Reena in just 1 week. Both girls thought he must be very broken, so they should comfort him. But when they saw him, they were surprised because Sajou looked very calm and clearly said he never felt that kind of emotional attachment for Reena, so he was not hurt by this. Later, sitting alone at home, Sajou thought that Aika was out of his reach and he should accept reality. He tried to convince himself that moving on was the best choice. At that moment, he looked out the window and saw Aika standing in front of his house. He invited her inside and they sat face to face and started talking. talking. Aika explained she came because Saho's strange behavior worried her. His complete change happened so suddenly that it scared her. During the conversation, Saho said something silly and inappropriate out of his old habit, so Aika became even more confused. He was about to explain when his older sister Katie entered the room and interrupted their talk. Sajou quickly told his sister that Aika just came to talk about some schoolwork and was about to leave. Later, when he walked Aika back to her house, she asked what he wanted to say before his sister entered. Sajou took a deep breath and told her he was going to say that he would not chase after her anymore and would live his life normally. To make the moment lighter, he joked and said if she had any good friends, she should introduce him, but after hearing this, Aika became even sadder and more confused and walked away quiet. Words, Shinomiya was surprised and thought he was more understanding than he appeared. When Saho started to leave a little later, she asked him his name. Instead of giving his real name, Sajou lied and introduced himself as Yamazaki, so he would not be recognized. The next morning, he was leaving the house with his older sister Kaede. Kaede asked if after last night's meeting, he had spoken properly with Aika there. Sajou put the snacks in front of both of them. Shinomiya asked why he lied, so Sajou explained he thought having a bad name in front of the Public Morals Committee president would not be good for him, so he hid his identity. Shinomiya pointed out he got his friend in trouble because in class, Aika was happily talking with her new friends. One of them suggested that everyone should visit Aika's house on the weekend and meet her little sister. They were discussing this plan when Sajou asked him what he really thought about Yuanami's behavior. Sajou calmly said that instead of blaming herself again and again, Yuanami should try to be a bit braver, work on her fear, and build up her confidence, then she could move forward. Shinomiya listened to his advice carefully and found it quite meaningful. After the conversation ended, Sajou was finally allowed to leave. Summer arrived in Tokyo, and the humidity became so intense that all the students started sweating a lot. When Sajou entered the class, he was pleasantly surprised to see a new air conditioner in the room. He felt the cool air and breathed out in relief. At that moment, Kiyashida greeted him cheerfully. Sajou commented on her summer uniform, saying it looked a bit too light, so Ashida reminded him that it was the school's official summer uniform. When Sajou looked at Aika, she seemed even more beautiful than before. He started to ask Ashida about the weekend visit to Aika's house, but at that moment, the teacher entered and told everyone to sit in their seats. During the period, Ashida was looking at photos from the weekend on her phone. She noticed everyone was laughing and having fun, but Aika did not look fully happy, like she was waiting for someone. Later, Ashida told Sajou he should talk to Aika, but Sajou stuck to his decision and said he wanted to give Aika enough space so she could make close relationships with other people. After class, his friend Sasaki came to him excitedly and brought up the weekend. He took out his phone and showed pictures from the party at Aika's house. While looking at the pictures, Sajou agreed that Aika's little sister was really cute, and as a joke, he sent those pictures to Sasaki's sister too, which made it seem like he was praising Aika's little sister more than Aika. At lunch break, Sajou was about to eat alone in peace when Yamazaki saw him. He insisted Saho join him for lunch, where a chatty girl named Koga and some other girls from the class were already sitting. Koga quickly noticed Sajou had become very quiet these days and joked by asking if something was stressing him, and everyone started teasing about Sajou and Aika's more than classmate fate. Sajou became annoyed at Yamazaki for bringing him into this kind of conversation. Koga directly asked if they had ever gone out together, so Sajou answered dryly that he did not even know Aika's correct home address. Yamazaki started teasing him, and then the girls began to ask about his short meeting with Reena Aizawa. Sajou was about to answer when suddenly Aika came and stood in front of him. Without saying anything to anyone, she grabbed Sajou's hand and took him outside. The whole group was surprised, and even Sajou began to worry about what he had done that made Aika so serious about pulling him away. After leaving the girls' group, he slipped and fell on the floor in the hallway. As he was still getting up, Aika came close and asked what he was talking about with those girls. She admitted with some hesitation that seeing this made her feel a little jealous. Hearing this, Sajou understood for the first time why she was angry with him. But Aika quickly pulled herself together, told him not to misunderstand, and hurried away, so Sajou was left confused again. Later, Ashida came from behind, touched his elbow lightly, and asked what happened. Sajou told her that during lunch, when he was talking to the other girls, Aika got angry about it, and now he could not understand what he should do. After listening to his confused words, Ashida guessed that Aika was sensitive about his attention and maybe did not want him to mix so freely with others. At that moment, a senior boy from the student council came and asked to talk to Sajou. He had heard that Sajou was behind the same girl for years, and then suddenly decided to step back, so he wanted to know the reason for this change. Sajou briefly replied that now he was trying to change himself and wanted to live a normal life instead of being obsessed with someone. Then the senior revealed the real reason, saying he actually came at Sajou's older sister Kaede's request. Kaede was worried about his sudden change because she felt she had always spoken harshly to Sajou in childhood and called him weak and ordinary, and now she feared those words might have broken him inside. Sajou was surprised because for the first time, time his sister spoke her true feelings to someone. The senior told Sajou he had arranged a meeting for the two of them on the roof so they could talk openly about everything. As they walked down the hall, Sajou asked why he was helping so much. The senior hinted that last year, Kaede helped him during a tough time, so now he wanted to return the favor. Far away, Aika and Ishida silently watched both boys leave. When Sajou reached the roof, he saw Kaede waiting for him there. He playfully told her that if she really cared about him, she should list 10 of his good qualities. Kaede became nervous and could not remember a single good thing right away. Then he asked if she could list ordinary habits. At this, Kaede listed many of his small habits non-stop, like how he lived, how he did things, what he liked, and when he stayed silent. Sajou was sure she had always watched him closely, even if she always spoke in a strict tone. He told his sister clearly not to blame herself for things in the past. He admitted he was an ordinary boy, and that was why he himself decided to stop chasing Aika. It was only his personal choice, not because of anything Kaede said. He told her he liked his sister exactly as she was, direct, blunt, never saying thank you, and totally relaxed at home, not some fake sweet sister who always acted soft. At that moment, Aika and Ishida suddenly appeared, and they had been listening for a while. Aika immediately became angry at Sajou for speaking so harshly to his sister and told him he should apologize. Instead of getting caught in her anger, Sajou directly asked why she was on the roof in the first place. Hearing this, Aika was shocked and realized she was now doing what she used to dislike in others, secretly following him and watching his actions. Blushing in embarrassment, Aika quickly said she just came there by chance, then ran away again. Kaede also decided to leave and, in her usual style, scolded Sajou as she went, and it seemed like the brother-sister relationship returned to its old normal teasing. That evening, when Sajou came home, he saw Kaede lying on the sofa as always. After their sharp talk on the roof, he gave her a snack as a peace offering, as if he was apologizing. Kaede took it and, while eating, started complaining about something again. Their usual argument continued, and the mother watched them with a loving smile. Sajou thought the scene was funny and started taking photos and a video of Kaede enjoying her food. When Kaede saw this, she became angry and quickly got up and punched Sajou hard, and so their everyday fight was complete once again. The next day in the cafeteria, Aika and Ishida were remembering the weekend meeting. Aika admitted she felt a little strange that her little sister so quickly became close with her friends. Ishida brought up the real issue and reminded her that it was not just about her sister, it was also about Sajou. She said Aika was sad because Sajou did not come to her house. Ishida explained that sometimes feeling someone's attention and importance can become a support, and Sajou's presence made a habit and familiar feeling for Aika. Now that he was keeping his distance, that space felt empty and she felt lonely. At first, Aika tried to avoid the topic, but Ishida clearly advised her that if she really wanted Sajou to look at her again, she should not just wait, but take a step forward herself. At Sajou's house during breakfast, he and Kaede were sitting together. Kaede looked at his hair and said it had grown a lot and looked messy, while before he used to care a lot about his appearance. Sajou replied carelessly that now he did not care about these things. On the way to school, he thought Kaede was right. He used to get ready, style his hair, and try to look neat because he wanted to make a good impression on Aika, but now that he had stopped chasing her, he felt there was no reason to take care of himself anymore. When he reached school, he greeted Aika and Ishida in a formal, slightly fake way and said Aika was just a normal classmate for him. Ishida quickly stopped him and jokingly tapped his leg, telling him to drop the fake act. He asked if after yesterday's girls' meeting, everyone got home safely, and for a few moments, the three of them talked like regular friends. A little later, when he was about to go outside for break, Aika tried to come closer to him, but Sajou ignored her and went straight out, and she was left standing there. Sajou went to a quiet part of the school and started eating his lunch alone, thinking no one would bother him there. But after a while, he noticed more students were sitting at nearby tables. Shinomiya saw him and called him to join her group. Yuanami also invited him kindly, so after some hesitation, Sajou went and sat with them, even though in his heart, he was now used to being alone. During lunch, Sajou was surprised that Yu was no longer the same nervous girl as before. She seemed much more confident and calm. The conversation was pleasant, and Shinomiya thanked Sajou from the heart. She told him that he played a big part in Yu's change and helped her understand that not all boys were bad. Shinomiya also admitted that Sajou's advice to encourage her team and praise their efforts made her relationship with Yu stronger and made her a better leader. She seriously said Sajou was very valuable for the school, that he should be more confident, and that he was completely different in personality from Kaede, even though she had known his sister for years. Back in class, Sajou's friend Sasaki came to him looking troubled. He complained that because Sajou sent the picture with Aika's little sister, his own sister Yuki kept teasing him. After venting, Sasaki pulled Sajou aside and seriously admitted he had started to like Aika and wanted to be with her. Sajou was surprised for a moment, but instead of feeling angry or jealous, he went quiet and thought deeply. He realized Aika was much better than him and maybe deserved a boy who could stand at her level. He thought about Sasaki, who was good-looking, active in sports, popular in class, and had many good qualities. In his heart, Sajou accepted that if anyone was right for Aika, Aika, it was Sasaki, and maybe his decision to keep his distance was correct. This thought left him feeling empty inside, and he went to the restroom to hide. Later, he saw Sasaki walking with Aika and Ashita and felt a little pain in his heart. In the evening, when he was about to leave school, Aika came up behind him. Sajou asked if she wanted to walk home with him, and she nodded lightly. On the way, she asked where he went during break, and he answered that usually he ate alone in the cafeteria, but today he ate with the committee girls. Hearing this, Aika's face showed a bit of dislike and jealousy, even though she did not say anything directly. Sajou gently said he did not want to disturb the balance between Aika's new friends and Sasaki, so he wished good things for everyone from afar. While going down the stairs, Aika brought up the topic of his hair and said it now looked messy and strange, and he should fix it. Sajou asked for her opinion on how his hair would look good, so at first, she said it did not matter to her, but then she seriously added that if his hair had been simple black in the beginning, maybe she would not have been so interested in talking to him. Sajou took this hint to heart and, at home, tried to dye his hair a darker brown, but could not do it properly on his own. Katie saw him doing this in the bathroom and laughed, then took over the job herself, firmly held his head, put the dye on properly, and finally told him the color would settle correctly after a few days. Sometime later, when the midterm exam results were posted, Sajou was shocked to see his result. His rank had dropped a lot from before, and he realized along with his mental confusion, his focus on studies had also gone down. He realized that the main reason for his studies was actually the desire to stay close to Aika. Now that he had stopped chasing Aika, his focus had scattered, and that was why his marks dropped. While Sajou was standing in front of the result sheet, he looked at the list again and saw Aika's name. He saw her marks were much better than before, and she had reached second position in her year. Thinking this hurt Sajou, and he wondered if he was the one holding her back until now. He saw her laughing and talking with her new friends on one side, and on the other side, his friend Sasaki came and told him his own ranking was 29. At that moment, Sajou felt strongly that Sasaki was not only good-looking and popular, but also strong in studies. Seeing all this, he became sure in his heart that his decision to step away from Aika's path was really the right one. The next day at school, Aika was surrounded by her new friends, and everyone was making plans for the summer holidays. During the conversation, Sasaki asked if she would invite Sajou too. The other girls guessed that now Aika was so popular, it probably was not easy for Sajou to get close to her. Sajou heard all this from his seat and quietly left the class to walk in the hallway. On the way, he saw three girls peeking into the classroom door and staring at Aika. Feeling something strange, he walked up and asked what they were looking at about Aika. When he came close suddenly, one of them became nervous and screamed, then tried to compose herself and said with a sarcastic tone that a boy like him should not chase after such a beautiful girl. Sajou calmly made a light joke about her nervousness, so the three girls got annoyed and walked away. Hearing the noise, Aika came outside, so Sajou just said a few girls were arguing about a small thing, and now the problem was solved. The next morning, heavy rain was falling in Tokyo, and water was gathered on the streets. Sajou and Aika were going to school separately, but they ran into each other at a street corner. Sajou walked straight as usual, while Aika hesitated, and then walked a little faster behind him. At that moment, Sajou saw a big puddle by the road and a fast car coming, which was about to pass right by Aika. He quickly moved in front of Aika, the car went by, splashed all the dirty water on Sajou, and Aika stayed clean. In class, Sajou sat shivering and soaking wet. Feeling responsible, Aika gave him her handkerchief, so at least he could dry his face and hands. Yamazaki also joked by offering his used handkerchief, but before anything else could happen, Sajou suddenly bent over his desk and everything went dark before his eyes. When he regained consciousness, he heard the teacher's voice faintly in his ears, and his head felt heavy and body weak. Ashita saw him and became worried and quietly asked if he was okay. The teacher also saw his condition and immediately gave him permission to go to the medical room. Sajou tried to get up, but his legs shook and he fell on the floor near the classroom door. Other students rushed forward to help him up, and at that moment, Sajou's mind drifted into the past. He remembered that he often tried to hide his weakness and confusion and act strong, but whenever he was really about to fall, at some point, Aika always stepped up to support him, and this memory kept him steady inside. In the medical room, the nurse told Aika and Ashita that Sajou had a high fever. She explained his health got worse because he got soaked in the rain and was covered in dirty water, so he needed to rest. Both girls looked at Sajou sleeping from behind the curtain, and worry was clear on Aika's face especially. Since Sajou needed to sleep peacefully, the nurse sent them back to class. A little later, the nurse checked inside again and found Sajou awake. He insisted he wanted to go back to class, but the nurse gently but firmly told him he needed more rest or his fever would increase. In the class, class, Aika kept looking at the window and door again and again, her mind more focused on Sajou than on studies. After school, Aika and Ashita were walking in the hallway carrying Sajou's bag. Ashita joked about opening the bag to see what things he usually carried, but Aika quickly stopped her seriously and said they should respect Sajou's privacy. When they reached the medical room, the nurse had already left. They pulled back the curtain and saw Sajou looking weak and staring out the window. When they got closer, Aika quietly apologized and blamed herself, saying maybe he ended up in this condition because of her. As she came closer, Sajou got nervous and asked her to stop, saying she might get sick like him. At that moment, before going home, Kaede and Shinomiya also came to visit him. All four girls entered, and in a joking but truly worried way, looked at his condition. Kaede and Shinomiya went forward and checked his fever by touching his forehead. Seeing how much those two cared openly, Aika's face showed a mixed look of jealousy and confusion. The next day, Sajou did not come to school. Aika kept thinking about him all day and felt angry at herself for being so upset by his absence. In the evening, when Sajou was resting at home, the doorbell rang. Outside, Aika and Ashita were standing, who had come especially to check on him. They told him all the kids in class were worried about him and showed him some messages. Aika could not show her real feelings and instead scolded him a bit in a harsh tone about his health, then quickly left. The next day, when Sajou returned to school, Aika saw him talking to Marika in the hallway. Marika, who was a well-known senior, came to Aika and complained that the student council president could only be chosen from second-year students, and this year, no first-year candidate had appeared yet, so she wanted Aika to support her campaign. While talking, Marika's friends also gathered around Aika, as if they wanted to surround her and win her over. Seeing the scene from a distance, Sajou quickly understood that Marika wanted to use Aika's popularity for her own benefit. He went forward and, politely but clearly, asked Marika if her whole plan was only to get support for herself by putting Aika in front. He explained that Aika was such a prominent and well-liked girl that if she became the face of the campaign, people would remember only Aika, not the real candidate. Marika was offended by this and asked in a harsh tone why he was saying all this. Most of the class was now paying attention to this conversation. Sajou, in a calm but clear way, said in front of everyone that in his view, Aika was not only very beautiful, but also stood out in her personality and behavior, and that was why people naturally paid more attention to her. After hearing his words, the whole atmosphere became silent for a moment. Everyone looked at Aika, and she blushed deeply. Sajou himself was surprised that his words had such a strong effect and wondered why everyone reacted so much this time. Sajou was also surprised because he had called Aika a goddess as a joke many times before, so why did everyone find it so special this time? Ashita explained to him that this time, he had defended her and praised her in front of everyone seriously, so it felt different and heavy for Aika. Hearing such an open compliment in front of everyone, Aika became nervous and started shouting at Sajou with strange words to hide her embarrassment. Looking at her red hair and blushing face, Sajou said without thinking that she looked really cute right now. That was the final limit for her. She became even more embarrassed and quickly ran away. The school day started with Sajou standing at the board and solving a difficult math question easily, which the other classmates could not solve. The teacher praised him a lot, and when he returned to his seat, Ashita teased him with a laugh, saying she did not know he was so good at studying. Sajou sat at his desk, glanced at Aika, and noticed again that now she was almost always surrounded by her new friends. When the lunch bell rang, Sajou went to the cafeteria, but when he got there, he saw all the tables were full. At that moment, Yuanami saw him and waved for him to come to her table, where the other Public Morals Committee members were also sitting. Sajou hesitated but sat with them and wondered why he was called. Yu asked about his health, while Shinomiya got to the main point and formally asked if he would like to join their committee. This surprised Sajou deeply. Shinomiya explained she would step down from the president's position in a few months, and so far had not managed to recruit any boys to the committee. Most of the girls who were candidates wanted this position for the name and show, not out of a sense of responsibility. She reminded Sajou how helpful his advice was about encouraging her team, so she thought Sajou had the ability to become a leader. As Sajou was thinking about it, Yu gently reached out and held his hand, sincerely saying she hoped he would make a good decision. This sudden touch made Sajou nervous, and he quickly pulled his hand back, which made the senior girls angry. Realizing his mistake, he quickly grabbed Yu's hand again, but this only made things more complicated, and both seniors became even more upset. Sajou got up nervously, said a few random words of apology, and left, and so he left them with the impression that maybe he was not ready for this responsibility yet. When he went into the hallway and tried to take a deep breath, Aika appeared in front of him. She noticed his hair was messy again, as if he had just run from somewhere. Instead of telling her about the strange situation with the committee, Sajou stayed quiet. Aika came closer and told him not to move, and started fixing his hair herself. Her gentle tone and careful way of tidying his hair felt so sudden to Sajou that he nervously joked, saying he was ready to pay 5,000 yen for this service. Aika did not like this at all, got angry, stepped back, and left him standing there. Later, the whole school gathered in the auditorium for a leadership committee meeting. The first few speeches were serious and not very interesting, but when Shinomiya took the stage, her strong personality and clear words caught everyone's attention. Soon after, the student council representatives arrived, and Sajou especially noticed Yugo, who was good-looking, confident, and the center of attention, and many girls seemed impressed by him. Back in the class, many students excitedly talked about the event. Then the teacher quieted everyone and announced that, for the upcoming school tour, a boy and a girl from the class would be chosen as helpers. When no one in the class volunteered to help with the tour, the teacher decided it was best to pick names by rock, paper, scissors. Sajou competed against another classmate and quickly won, so he escaped this duty. On the other side, Aika lost her match and had to take on the job of tour guide. As soon as Sasaki saw this, he stood up and said he wanted to do this job instead of the other boy because he was always ready to help. Everyone understood he was actually looking for a chance to get closer to Aika. Sajou watched this scene quietly and, in his heart, wished he was the one standing with Aika. Seeing the look on his face, Ashita said Aika and Sasaki made a good pair. To hide his feelings, Sajou agreed, but Ashita immediately noticed his fake smile and called him weak in a harsh joke for not showing courage, and Sajou quietly admitted to himself that she was right. With the first semester over, the teacher announced the start of summer break. As Sajou left the class, he glanced at Sasaki for a moment and then walked away quietly, while Aika stood by the door and watched his back for a long time as he left. At the start of the break, Sajou was working part-time at a local bookstore. His manager was happy with his speed and responsibility and praised him. One day, while sweeping outside the shop, he saw 3 older boys bothering a small kid. Sajou quickly stepped in and stopped them. They said a few harsh words and left, and Sajou brought the scared boy inside. While talking, he found out the boy's name was Koda. Sajou had an announcement made in the shop, and after a while, Koda's older sister arrived. She quickly hugged her brother and, after hearing what happened, thanked Sajou over and over. She told her brother he was lucky to meet such a good and kind young man who helped him. For the first time, hearing direct praise from such a beautiful girl made Sajou really happy and a bit nervous too. That evening at home, Sajou was in the kitchen happily remembering the whole day when Kaede entered and, as usual, told him to make coffee for her. As she sat down, she asked what he had thought about the offer to join the Public Morals Committee because she found out about it from Shinomiya. Sajou clearly said he was not interested in such a big responsibility. In her own way, Kaede advised that if he joined the student council, it would be easier for her too, since she was also about to leave her position soon. Even then, Sajou did not agree to any new responsibility. Kaede just told him to think about it calmly and then left the kitchen. The next day at the bookstore, Koda's sister came to meet Sajou again. She thanked him once more and said it was because of Sajou that Koda had become more confident and was less scared to go out and play. The two of them chatted pleasantly for about an hour, and every few minutes, Sajou became more shy at her simplicity and cheerful attitude. Before leaving, she shyly handed him a small gift and said she would come to meet him again one day. Sajou went inside the shop and opened the package, and inside was a scarf with a shark design. Even though it looked a bit childish, he realized it was a gift from the heart, which brought a small smile to his face without thinking. The next day, Sajou was walking with Fuka along the road by the sea. A light sea breeze was blowing. Fuka was talking to him in a cheerful way, and that day she wore clothes a little different from usual. When the strong wind moved her hand, Sajou noticed the beautiful bracelet on her wrist. Fuka also noticed that Sajou was still using the same shark handkerchief she gave him as a gift, and seeing this made her secretly happy, while Sajou felt shy. Later, Fuka came to meet him again at the bookstore. When Sajou complimented her bracelet, she said her father bought it for her from a local handmade shop. While talking, she came closer and touched his arm lightly, and Sajou got nervous, but at that moment, he remembered Aika's birthday. He thought it might be good to buy a gift for Aika from the same shop. He asked Fuka if she would go with him to the handmade shop, and she happily agreed right away. When they were walking along the sea toward the shop, Fuka thought for a moment that someone might misunderstand if they saw them together. She laughed, saying maybe her clothes were too noticeable today, and she wished she had worn something simple. Sajou was confused for a moment, but quickly assured her that she looked fine and beautiful even in those clothes, so she should not worry. On the other side, another plan was happening too. Ashita, Aika, and her playful little sister Eri were going for a walk by the sea. On the way, they passed by Sajou's house. Ashita suggested ringing the bell to see if he would join them, but there was no answer. They guessed he must be at his part-time job, so all three went ahead, not knowing that Sajou was also going toward the same beach. Sajou and Fuka stopped at the beach on the way and admired the sea. Fuka jokingly asked if he came there to see girls in swimsuits, and he quickly denied it. She said she did not like swimming much because she had to buy a new swimsuit every year and found it annoying. While talking, she came closer to to him without thinking, and Sajou became nervous, so she quickly apologized and both changed the topic to keep the mood light. Finally, the two of them reached the handmade craft shop. The shopkeeper immediately recognized Fuka and greeted her happily. Inside, there were seashells, stones, and all kinds of small handmade jewelry. Sajou got confused by so many things and could not decide what to buy for Aika. The shopkeeper tried to give advice, but still he could not make a decision. Seeing his trouble, Fuka quietly asked if the gift was for someone special. After thinking, Sajou told her the truth, that it was for the girl he had liked for a long time, but she never accepted his feelings. After hearing this, Fuka cheerfully said she would help him choose the best gift. She showed him a beautiful, soft-colored shell and said something delicate and simple like, "That would be better." While talking, she asked more about Aika, so Sajou told her he chased her one-sidedly for a long time, heard many rejections, but now he was trying to change and he wanted to move forward instead of holding on to all those feelings. Sajou told Fuka that the feelings he had for Aika gave him the motivation to focus on his studies and even come to this school. He clearly said he no longer had any hope in this relationship. He just wanted to give her a small gift as a thank you. If this simple gift even brought a small smile to her face, that would be enough for him. Hearing this, Fuka was deeply touched and realized he was truly making a sincere effort for someone. Sajou, after lightening the burden in his heart, decided he should select something from the heart instead of worrying too much. At the same time, on the beach, Aika, Ashita, and Eri were resting after having played a lot. They noticed the same handmade craft shop a short distance away and thought about going to see it. Meanwhile, inside the shop, Sajou noticed a painting on the wall showing a younger Fuka wearing an old school uniform. He realized the girl he thought was college age was actually a middle school student. A little later, Sajou began making a special gift for Aika by cutting a shell with his own hands, and Fuka encouraged him happily. While working, the two started talking about love and feelings. Fuka, blushing, admitted she had never been in a relationship, so Sajou gently said that when a person really starts to like someone, that is when they begin to think a little more maturely. At that moment, Aika, Ashita, and Eri also arrived at the craft shop. The shopkeeper told them that the time for making handmade things was over for the day, but they could look at the ready-made items inside. While looking at things, Eri noticed a new photo on the wall, which showed Sajou and Fuka together, the photo that was taken when they first arrived. Later, when the three of them were sitting by the beach eating something, Aika saw a boy walking away in the distance. For a moment, she thought maybe it was Sajou, but she could not be sure. When she told Ashita about it, Ashita laughed and said maybe Sajou was busy somewhere with someone else, and Aika pretended to take it as a joke, but felt a little uneasy inside. In the evening, on the way back, Sajou and Fuka were sitting together on the bus. Along the way, they talked a bit, then Fuka slowly started to doze off from tiredness and fell asleep with her head down. Sajou looked at her for a while, then checked his phone, where there was a new message from Ashita in the class group chat. He opened the message, and his eyes widened. In the picture, Aika was seen running on the beach in a swimsuit. At that moment, he realized that today, both he and Aika were at the same beach, but even though they were both there, they could not reach each other. During a quiet shift at the bookstore, Sajou asked the shopkeeper what would happen to the store when summer vacation ended and he could no longer work there. The old owner happily said he had already thought about calling a new girl to work, and he joked with Sajou that soon he would become a professor himself and then would have to guide his own students. After the old owner left, Sajou just stared quietly at the books, showing no special excitement for the work. At that moment, the bell on the door rang and a soft voice called his name. When he turned around, he immediately recognized her. It was Mina Ichinos, the quiet girl who sat next to him in class. Mina said she saw the hiring board outside and came for the part-time job. Sajou wondered in his heart if such a shy girl could even talk to customers, but then called the owner. The surprising thing was that Mina was already a regular customer at the shop and truly loved books, so the owner was immediately happy, took her form, and decided to hire her without hesitation. He introduced Mina to his wife, who smiled and welcomed her, but quickly said her long hair in front might get in the way for work. As soon as she picked up the scissors, Sajou quickly stepped in and gently changed the topic. He introduced himself as Mina's classmate and now co-worker, and directly asked if, when she read books, her hair got in the way, and if so, what she did. In a soft voice, Mina answered that she used a clip or pin to keep her hair back, and right there showed them how she tied her hair. The owner's wife liked this simple solution and agreed to put the scissors away. Sajou told Mina he looked forward to working with her, and so her first day began as a junior worker. The next day, Sajou slowly began to teach her the work, but her extreme shyness was a clear problem. Mina often answered very softly or just nodded, so the conversation could not move forward. Sajou first told her to tie her hair properly so her face was clear, then showed her how to organize books on racks, and explained it was necessary to answer customers with words, not just gestures. A little later, a difficult customer entered the shop, and in a harsh tone at the counter, began arguing with Mina about why the shop did not have his favorite book. The strong tone and non-stop questions made Mina even more scared. Sajou quickly stepped in, handled the order and payment himself, and dealt with the customer by setting sending him out. When he turned back, he saw Mina was close to tears, which made him worried too. After that, Sajou went to the owner and seriously started the conversation. He said Mina did love books, but talking directly with customers was probably too much for her, and he was afraid she would keep breaking down in these situations. The owner was sorry, but trusting Sajou, he said it would be better if Sajou spoke openly with Mina. Sajou went to the back room where Mina was sitting alone after the owner's wife left. With kindness but honesty, he told her working in a shop was not easy. Many different kinds of people came in, and every day could bring a new problem. He asked her if she really felt strong enough to keep working without getting scared in these situations. Then he advised her that if she felt she was not confident enough to talk to people yet, maybe it was better if she kept this place only as her favorite shop, where she could come as a peaceful customer like before instead of for a part-time job. Hearing Sajou's harsh words, Mina's eyes filled with tears. She lowered her head and quietly said she did not want to leave the job. She bent down in front of him and asked for one more chance. Sajou felt nervous seeing her bend like that and told her to leave the shop for now, but the stubbornness and courage in her attitude surprised him. At that moment, the owner entered, understood what was going on, and decided Mina should get another chance to prove herself. At night, when Sajou came home, he saw a class group video call on his phone with Aika and Ashita, so he joined the call. Aika blushed and turned off her camera, so most of the conversation was with Ashita. Sajou told her that today he spoke harshly to a girl at work. She bent down in front of him, and he felt very bad about it. Ashita quickly guessed that maybe the girl would not even come to the shop the next day. After a moment of silence, Aika gently said that what Sajou did as a senior was not wrong, because he needed to honestly tell her about her performance, and only then could she get better. Hearing her words, Sajou really felt courage and relief. There was a little closeness in their conversation, so Ashita laughed and made an excuse to leave the call. For a few moments, Sajou and Aika were alone. The mood became a little quiet and awkward, but Sajou did not know how to continue the conversation, so he quickly ended the call himself, and Aika felt a little hurt and sad inside. On another hot day, Sajou was lightly sprinkling water on the sidewalk outside the bookstore to make the heat feel less. He was lost in thought when he suddenly heard someone cheerfully call his name. Looking up, he saw Fuka standing in front of him with a smile. She talked about the heat in a light way, fanned herself with her hand, and carelessly tied up her hair. While they were talking, Mina quietly appeared at the shop door, which made the moment a little serious. As soon as they entered the cool shop, both girls quickly got lost in conversation about their favorite old fantasy book series. Fuka said one book from the series was no longer being published, so Mina showed some regret, but Fuka happily said she had that copy and would lend it to Mina. Hearing this, real happiness appeared on Mina's face. When Sajou watched them from a distance, he felt real peace that the once quiet Mina was now slowly making friends openly. While he was busy putting books in place, he got a message on his phone. It was a notification from the school visit tour group chat, where someone had sent a slightly blurry picture from the student guide's orientation meeting. Sajou scrolled through the group chat messages and saved the picture on his phone. Even though the picture was blurry, his eyes stopped straight on Aika, who still seemed beautiful to him. At night at home, he sat with his sister and gave her a cold drink. Kaidi praised him, saying he did his part-time job seriously and also helped Mina. Sajou asked in surprise how she knew, and Kaidi proudly said she had her own way of collecting news. Sajou joked about her interference, so she glared at him in her usual style. Now that his part-time job was about to end, Kaidi advised him to help with the school visit tour. She explained staff was short for the event, and both the student council and public morals committee were under pressure. Sajou hesitated at first, but Kaide twisted the topic so that if he helped, it would also support Mina's brother's situation, so he agreed. She made him call Shinomiya right then and offer his help. The phone call was awkward at first. Shinomiya was surprised by a late-night call and gently said maybe they would not need him and would manage on their own. Kaide kept signaling Sajou from behind not to give up, so without pausing, he said he wanted to meet and talk with her in any case. This directness made Shinomiya pause for a moment. Then finally she accepted his help, but made it clear the work would be simple and hard, with no special attention. Sajou replied that if it was for her, he would be happy, and Kaede was also satisfied. The next day was the visit tour day. Sajou met Shinomiya, who explained his duties to him. Because she remembered the call from the night before, she looked a little shy, but stayed serious in her words and said he was a reliable partner for her. She explained the student council would handle the main parts like guiding guests, while the public morals committee's job was to move supplies, prepare rooms, and complete all behind-the-scenes arrangements. In her opinion, that was the real responsibility and the event depended on it. She also admitted most of the committee were girls, so Sajou's help was very important for them. Sajou joked lightly that maybe this was his chance to prove himself through hard work, and Shinomiya smiled and gave him a gentle push. On the other side, Aika was in a completely different environment. She was with Sasaki among the guides and ready for the school tour, but her heart was somewhere else. When Sasaki invited her to join the football tournament, she gently refused. She started thinking about her past and how her family's money problems put a burden on her. She had no time for fun, no space space for friends and often felt lonely. One day, while eating lunch alone, Sajou's life changed the same way when he appeared in front of her in a clumsy way. Aika saw a little bit of herself in him, so she helped him. She remembered that the next day on the roof, Sajou thanked her so seriously and, at the same time, confessed his feelings at first sight. At that time, because of her home situation, she gave him a clear answer, but Sajou did not give up. Every day, he stayed in her path in some way, always positive, extra enthusiastic, and tried to encourage her in his own way. Aika finally realized that Sajou's stubborn presence, which annoyed her for years, actually became a support for her. Because of what was said about her and Sajou, other students started paying attention to her, talking to her, and slowly her world became bigger than before. In a flashback, it was shown that in the last days before graduating middle school, when Sajou did not appear, she unexpectedly felt sad, like something was missing. Then came the day when the high school entrance results were posted. Aika saw her name on the board, happily called her mom to share the news, and at the same time, Sajou came to her. It turned out he also got into Kotsu High, because his only goal was to stay close to Aika. They walked in the hallway together. Sajou, as always, praised her and said she looked cute, while Aika blushed and replied with scolding words. Now, in the present, when Sajou pulled away, Aika felt empty inside. She realized intensely how much she missed his presence. Suddenly, all she wanted was to see him, to talk to him. She started running through the empty school hallways searching for him. Sajou's voice, his small talks, and his recent promise that he would not trouble her anymore. These memories kept spinning in her mind. At that moment, she saw Sajou in the distance carrying a chair toward a room and ran after him, but he disappeared from her view. Aika did not give up and searched almost the whole school for him. Finally, at a turn, she bumped straight into Sajou as she ran in the hallway. Both fell down, and for a few moments, time seemed to stop. Sajou looked directly into Aika's eyes, and she also looked at him without saying anything, as if both were clearly feeling each other's emotions for the first time. When both of them stood up from the ground, Sajou stretched his body a bit, and seeing this, a small smile appeared on Aika's face without thinking. In an embarrassed tone, Sajou said he had been running around all day for the school tour arrangements. Aika quietly said she had been watching him work for a while, meaning she had been keeping an eye on him for quite some time. Then she suddenly came much closer to him than ever before. Bending slightly, she simply told him that he had a slight smell of sweat, as if she was just stating a common fact. This unexpected closeness shook Sajou inside, because he knew Aika never before let the distance between them get so small. To calm himself, he tried to lighten the mood by thinking maybe she was confused because they were meeting after a long time. When Aika fanned herself with her hand, Sajou looked at her and asked why she was running so quickly in the hallways. Aika paused, then quietly admitted she wanted to see him, so she was searching for him. She also said she missed him during the holidays. This was completely unexpected for Sajou, so he quickly changed the subject and started talking about his part-time job, saying he now got along better with Mina. A hint of change appeared on Aika's face for a moment, as if a small sting came up in her heart. Not wanting to see her sad, Sajou quickly said that after the holidays, her skin had changed a bit from being in the sun, and she looked a little different. This sentence reminded her of the day at the beach, and at the same time brought to Sajou's mind the beach picture Ashita sent in the group chat. This direction in the conversation suddenly reminded them both, and Aika's face showed a mix of annoyance and embarrassment. Aika angrily asked him to give her his phone so she could delete the picture at once, but Sajou instinctively grabbed her hand and both stood still for a few moments. At that moment, Ashita arrived in her cheerful way, changing the mood a bit. To lighten the moment, Sajou got juice from the vending machine, and the three of them sat on a bench. Ashita started talking about her volleyball club and said maybe next year she would be on the main team. Then the conversation returned to Sajou's sunburn. For a moment, he almost said he was at the same beach, but quickly changed the topic because he did not want to explain about going there with Fuka. Ashita immediately noticed his nervousness and looked at him suspiciously. Feeling a little awkward in the air, Aika put her hand on the empty space between her and Ashita on the bench, signaling Sajou to come and sit there, and so the three of them sat close and kept talking. They talked about the preparations for the school tour, and Sajou joked by calling himself an unimportant boy who would never become a guide. Ashita laughed and teased him, saying maybe he actually wanted to be with Aika instead of Sasaki. He immediately denied it. Then Aika stepped in and said if he became a guide, he would definitely be helpful to everyone, just like he helped with Mina's issue at the bookstore. He said with a laugh that Sajou interfering in people's matters was his habit, and Aika also smiled and said he should just be careful not to bother Mina too much. It sounded like a light comment, but it touched Sajou's heart. His expression changed, and he quietly said he would not bother anyone now. Aika immediately realized that her normal words put weight on Sajou's heart. She tried to get a little closer to him, her hand slowly coming closer to his, but then she suddenly stood up and asked if he would come to the school tour tomorrow. Sajou said he still had a bit of work left, but he would definitely come and would try to see her. The next day, the school was noisy and busy because of the visiting middle school students. The student council president, Yugo, stood on stage talking to the newcomers and attracted attracted everyone's attention. Sajou, who was busy with management work, watched the scene from afar and, seeing Aika smiling as a guide, felt as if he himself was just an ordinary helper in the background. Outside in the yard, Sasaki was welcoming his group of middle school students with a smile. In that group were Fuka and her friends. When he introduced Aika to everyone, a girl immediately asked about their relationship, and Sasaki became a bit embarrassed. Aika calmly explained they were just classmates, which made Sasaki feel a bit sad inside. The tour began, and Aika and Sasaki showed the group different parts of the school together. While walking in the hallway, they saw some boys joking with Reena Aizawa in a rough way. Aika stepped forward confidently, told them straight that the school did not need such behavior, and her strong tone and clear words made the boys go silent, and Reena was also impressed by her courage. Later, Fuka told her friends about Sajou with happiness and said she wished he could be their guide next time. Her friends teased her, saying the way she said Sajou's name made everything clear. Later, the same boys also came back to Aika and apologized for their behavior. When their part of the group tour was over, Sajou and another member of the morals committee passed by carrying supplies. Aika saw them, but before she could say anything, Fuka ran ahead. She called out to Sajou from afar and happily ran toward him, while Sasaki and Aika also followed behind her. Sajou suddenly became nervous when Fuka and her friends surrounded him from all sides. Fuka's friends loudly said he went out with Fuka and talked about how polite and caring he was. Aika stood there with mixed feelings, not completely happy and not fully angry. Fuka herself became very shy and finally left with her friends. Later, Ashita teased Sajou by calling him a polite boy as a joke. Aika still had many questions in her heart, including a bit of confusion and jealousy, so she directly asked Sajou what really happened. Sajou had no reason to hide it anymore, so he slowly explained the whole event from beginning to end. After a while, both girls felt satisfied with his answer, but Aika's eyes were still stuck on the swimsuit picture saved in his phone. She wanted Sajou to delete that picture so he would not look at it unnecessarily. Sajou promised he would not use that picture in a wrong way and would just keep it as a plain memory. Aika, who now started to feel softness for him in her heart, set one condition. Looking into his eyes, she said the picture could stay only if Sajou agreed to spend time with her and Ashita from now on, meaning he would be part of their small circle. Sajou happily agreed at once, and Ashita felt satisfied in her heart that her two close friends were slowly coming closer to each other. At the end of summer vacation, on a rainy afternoon, Sajou was doing a quiet shift at the bookstore. He and Mina were arranging books inside to keep them safe from moisture when suddenly heavy rain started outside. After a while, Sajou was surprised when he saw Aika running toward the shop in the rain, getting soaked. When she entered, Mina immediately gave her a towel so she could dry herself. Sajou was still confused, so he asked Aika what she was doing outside in this weather. Aika simply said she was nearby and came to meet him because she wanted to spend time with him. Hearing this, Sajou could barely believe his ears, while Aika kept asking him light questions which showed a bit of annoyance and jealousy. From the back, Mina also heard parts of their conversation. At that moment, the doorbell rang again, and Fuka, also soaked by the rain, entered. She greeted Sajou, and he handed her a towel and told her to come in. Mina called out to her from inside, so Fuka happily went to her, and the two of them started talking excitedly about books. Seeing this, Aika felt a bit like an outsider and made a slightly sarcastic comment that Sajou mixed so easily with both girls. Sajou kept his words gentle and said he just tried to be good to everyone, but this sentence affected Aika a lot, and she turned to leave angrily. Because the floor was wet, she slipped, but before she could fall, Sajou quickly caught her in his arms. For a few moments, they were very close to each other and quietly looked into each other's eyes. From a distance, Mina and Fuka saw this scene, smiled, and softly closed the door so they could have some time alone. Now, with the room quiet, a sense of softness and shyness filled the air. Aika, after steadying herself, brought the conversation back to the past and reminded him she really came to spend time with him. Aika seriously gave Sajou an official invitation to come to her house, and this time, she clearly told him she wanted Sajou to become like a kind big brother for her little sister Eri. This direct and slightly strange request made Sajou both nervous and happy, and in the end, he agreed to come. This moment became a sign of a new beginning in their relationship. A few days later, a nervous Sajou reached Aika's house with Ashita. He did not have the courage, so Ashita went ahead and rang the bell. When the door opened, both Aika and her playful little sister Eri greeted them quickly. Everyone was surprised when Ari immediately became friendly with Sajou, climbed onto his shoulders, and insisted he carry her around the whole room. Sajou could not say no and played in the lounge with her for a while. When Aika saw he looked tired, she picked Eri up in her arms to give him a little rest, but after a few moments, Eri laughed and ran back to Sajou, making Aika and Ashita both smile softly. Later, everyone sat together and drank cold drinks. The mood stayed light. Sometimes Ashita joked, sometimes Aika pretended to be annoyed, and then both laughed and teased each other. After Sajou played with Eri for a long time and sat quietly for a moment, the room door opened and Aika's mother entered. When she saw Sajou, she recognized him at once. After introduction, introductions, she smiled and said she had heard a lot about him from Aika. Hearing this, everyone in the room was surprised, and for Sajou, it was shocking to learn Aika talked about him at home as well. When everyone got up to leave, Eri and their mother went to the door and happily said goodbye to Sajou. On the way, the three friends also decided to meet again the next week. A little further on, Ashita made an excuse to leave, so Sajou and Aika could walk together for a while. Now, just the two of them were walking side by side on the road in front of the house, with a light evening breeze and a gentle silence in the air. In this mood, Aika slowly started to open her heart. She told Sajou that recently school had become much more pleasant for her, especially since the day she first met him in the canteen. She admitted after that moment, her everyday life changed, and Sajou played a big part in that. She said Sajou, with his attitude and constant attention, helped her come out of her feeling of loneliness. Sajou still felt guilty, thinking maybe he troubled her for years, but Aika quickly stopped him. She said in clear words that the real problem was her own close heart, and it was Sajou who broke that law. She went on to say that even after making new friends, she always felt something was missing inside, like some important thing was not there. Then, with tears in her eyes, she told Sajou that when he was not around, she missed him every day. She admitted she wanted to be with him every day and wanted them to be in an official relationship. At that moment, fireworks burst loudly in the sky, and Aika instinctively moved closer to Sajou and held him tightly because she was scared of loud noises. After the noise ended, the two of them were quietly standing very close to each other, and Aika looked at Sajou with a soft, full voice and told him she truly liked him. Standing together, a beautiful feeling grew in their hearts. Sajou, hesitating, started to reach for her hand, but stopped himself. Seeing this, Aika stepped forward herself and gently put her hand in his. Sajou held her hand tightly, and both walked home together in peaceful silence. The next day, opposite to the start of the story, this time it was not Sajou, but Aika, waiting for him on the way to school. Smiling, she fixed his tie, and then both walked to school together. Now this relationship was not just a one-sided thought, but a clear and shared reality for both of them.